Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yataka Shastito Nityam Vayu Sarvatra Gomahan Tata Sarvani Bhutani Matstaniti Upadaraya. This is in the 9th chapter, the verse number 6. Understand that as a mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. For an ordinary person is almost inconceivable how the huge material creation is resting in him, but the Lord is giving an example which may help us to understand. The sky may be the biggest manifestation we can conceive. In that sky, the wind or air is the biggest manifestation in the cosmic world. The movement of the air influences the movement of everything. Although the wind is great, it is still situated within the sky. The wind is not beyond the sky. Similar, all wonderful cosmic manifestations are existing by the Supreme Will, and all of them are subordinate to that Supreme Will. As we generally say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus everything is moving under His will. By His will everything is created, everything is being maintained, and everything is being annihilated. And still, He is aloof from everything as the sky is aloof from the activities of the wind. Upanishads say, Yad Bisha Vata Parvati. It is out of the fear of the Supreme Lord that the wind is blowing. Tatriya Upanishads, Brihadaranya Upanishad says, a lot of Sanskrit here, by the supreme order under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the moon, the sun, and other planets are moving. Brahma Samhita has also said, Yachakturesha Savita Sakalagarahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yas Yagya Brahmati Samrita Kala Chakru Govindamari Purusham Tamam Bhajami. This is a description of the movement of the sun. It is said that the sun is considered to be one of the eyes of the Lord, and thus it has immense potency to diffuse heat and light. Still it is moving in its present prescribed orbit by the order of the Supreme Will, Govinda. So from Vedic literature we can find evidence that this material manifestation, which appears to be very wonderful and great, is under the complete control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This will be further explained in later verses in this chapter. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Mritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svaparantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Go Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Okay. So it explains Krishna's power really. How I explained last time that this piece of cloth is woven in two directions. One is the warp and one is forgot what it was. Warp and weft, I think. And if you pull one out, the whole fabric will disintegrate. Because these are the two integrals. So otam and protam is stated in Sanskrit. Otam and protam. And everything is otam protam. That means without otam and protam there is no cloth. Without Krishna nothing works. And he says very clearly in Bhagavad-Gita, Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyati Yat Suracharam, that under my order this material creation is manifested. People have no idea. They think God is in the clouds and God is an old man with a long beard. As you can see in the most famous picture of God. Where's the most famous picture of God? Who knows that? Michelangelo, in the Sistine Chapel. Where old man is stretching his hand out to Adam and he has all these naked boys around himself. And that's certainly not Krishna. He doesn't surround himself with naked boys. Michelangelo did, actually. They're all his favorite boyfriends, actually, that he depicted. And but the fact is, Krishna is Nava Yovanam Cha. Although he's the oldest, Advaitam, Achyutim, Anadim, Anantarupam. Advaitam, the one, Advaitam, Achyuta, who never fails, Advaitam, Achyuta, Anadim, who is endless, has no end, Anantarupam, has unlimited forms. Adyam Purana, although he's the oldest, Nava Yovanam Cha, he's never getting old. Because the most beautiful time in the life of a person is when he's young. These young people look more beautiful. When I look in the mirror, I say to myself, my God, what has you done to me? Because there was a time I was young. And the famous joke I say always, at that time I was young and dumb. And now I'm only dumb, because the old age the youth is gone. But every age has its advantages. But the idea is that God is always young. Even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was 125 years ago and old, and he looked like a very young man. He was very young, so Krishna never gets old. So the idea of God being an old man, that is a projection, human projection. All these ideas about God, they're projections. Just like if you look at the ceiling, if somebody has red spectacles on his nose, he will say the ceiling is blue? Red. Somebody has a green spectacle on his nose, he will say the ceiling is green. If he has blue spectacle on his nose, he will say the ceiling is blue. Yeah. So they're projections. So people project on God. They think, well, he must be a very great being. Some old man somewhere in the clouds who's very upset, like a bookkeeper. Yeah, I saw what you're doing there. I'm going to put it down in my book. I saw that also. You don't have to believe me, but I saw what you just did to your wife. And so God is not a bookkeeper. All these activities, there is somebody keeping book. Who's that? Chitragupta, the secretary of Yamaraj. There's a story I heard in Russia that there was one boy. He was an atheist, basically speaking, and he didn't believe in God. And he saw the Hare Krishnas walking on the street on the other side, singing. And he went like this, and laughed about them. And they were waving him. They were very friendly. They didn't take offense. They were waving him. And he was kind of shocked that the people, although he's insulting them, they're friendly. And so every time he saw them, he would laugh about them. The devotees were waving. So, and he waved back. So he got into the habit, and he saw the devotees, they waved, he waved, and it went on for a good while. Then, what happened? One day he had a car accident, and he drove into a big truck in the middle of night. The truck was lying across the street or something. He drove into there, and all of a sudden, three beings came with him, two horns and tusks, gruesome to see, and they pulled his soul out of the body. And within seconds he found himself in a room. There was a man sitting on a very high throne, very royal, and a huge assembly of people were there, gathered. And these Yamadutas brought him in. And he said, so, Nikolai Ivanovich, or whatever his name was, I've been waiting for you. What has he done? Somebody stood up, Chitragupta. He has molested children, he has stolen money, he has betrayed his wife, he beat his children, he stole a long litany of sinful activities. So Yamaraj said, that's not very good. Is there anything good? He said, yeah, your lordship. Whenever he saw the devotees of our Lord Sri Krishna, the man on the throne immediately went like this. The whole audience went like this. As soon as they heard Krishna's name, they went like this, for a moment. He said, so Yamaraj said, what did he do? Whenever he saw devotees of Krishna, he would wave them. Wave them! Really? How many times did he do that? 36 times. That's wonderful. Okay, what would you do? He said to this man, if I give you another chance. He said, well, I become a Hare Krishna. So Yamaraj said, Haribol, he clapped his hands like this. He said, Haribol, you go right back. And he felt thrown back into the body. And then he woke up in the hospital, and the doctors were pressing his breast, trying to recover him. He said, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. And he woke up, and he went right to the temple, and the devotees explained to him that you're very fortunate. What you have seen there, normally we see only when it's too late. You know, when it's too late, you're very fortunate to see it now. So what are you going to do with your life? So he became a devotee. He's a book distributor. So you can see how this little thing, just this little thing of waving Krishna, you know, how this was such a successful thing to do. What to speak of devotees who are living in the temple, who are worshipping Krishna, worshipping Tulsi, singing Hare Krishna, going to Artik greeting, etc., listening to lectures, etc. We cannot even imagine the effect that what we're doing right now. It has an incredible effect on our future life. I gave an example. It was in, where was it? In Nairobi, Mombasa. In Mombasa, there was one man. He would come with his wife, and she would always chant Hare Krishna, and he was in the back doing business with other men, like men often do in church, do business, you know. Men are not that pious. Generally, the women are pious. And but then I saw him one evening. He came. He ran around the temple chanting, "Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan," and he came every day. And then he came even for early morning program. He was there, taking darshan and then chanting, "Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan." Then he became 3 times a day, and we already wondered about this man. And then he didn't come anymore. And so we were wondering about that as well. But then the doctor called us, Indian doctor. He said, "Swamiji, you have to come. This man, you know him very well, who always chants Hey Narayan, he's dying. Would you come?" So we came, 4 or 5 devotees. And so the doctor said, "You're too late." "Why are we too late?" He said, "Well, you see his brain scan, you know, it's flat. There's nothing going on. He's brain dead. He's a vegetable." You said, "Well, then he can't complain if he chant." He said, "Well, you can chant if you want. He won't hear it." I said, "It doesn't matter. Let's chant for him." So we chanted something like 20 minutes. All of a sudden, the brainwave started back, you know. And the nurse in the room next door, it was an intensive care station. She saw it. She came forward. Said, What did you do? What happened here?" Doctor arrived, you know. And then this man stood up and said, "Now it's Hare Krishna all the way." And he fell back and died. You know. You see how Krishna is kind, you know. He woke him up for one moment, you know. Now it's Hare Krishna all the time. Fell back and died on the spot. So the activity of the Prabhupada has given us so many activities in devotional life that we can do throughout our lives. It's just incredible, the result that we'll have. Like Putana, she came to poison Krishna. And Krishna didn't take the poison part. He just said, "She's my mother, she tries to feed me." And Krishna saved her. And in so many cases, you know, where Krishna saved people in all kinds of situations, like, who was it? The Gajendra, the crocodile. Yes? The Gajendra? Crocodile? He was in water, and the crocodile attacked him and dragged him in the water. And then only thing Gajendra did, he picked up a flower with his trunk and offered it to Krishna. And Krishna immediately came on the spot and liberated him. So we cannot imagine our good fortune that we ended up in the Hare Krishna movement. It's incredible. I mean, if I look at my class, for example, say primary school, nobody of my primary school is here. Then I went to middle school, nobody is here. Then I went to high school, nobody is here. Then I went to university, not one person. Oh yeah, Paramadveti Swami. He was living in the same place I was living. 2 people out of thousands and thousands of people made it to Vrindavan. Only 2 people. Of all my acquaintances from the time before I was 25, only 2 people. And there were thousands. And I think you all have the same story, you know. Where's your friend? Where's your relatives? I mean, even my relatives, they're nice people, but they can't, I never preach to them. There's no point. No point, because they can't understand it. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, for the soul, there's, what is it? Some look at the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, and others cannot understand. So most people can't understand. Even high-ups in the church, just like, for example, when the World Trade Center collapsed in New York, the bishop in New York, he preached the next day in church. He said, "Where was God in New York yesterday?" He said, my faith is wavering. Well, he was right there. Death I am destroys the worlds, Krishna say. Not a blade of grass can move without Krishna's sanction. He was right there. He inaugurated this whole thing. And we have in New York, we have so many life members who are working in the trade center. Something like 2,000. Not one of them got hurt. Everybody had an excuse that he couldn't come this day because the light was red, or his children were freaking out, or his wife was throwing a tantrum, or he couldn't get the car started, or whatever. Everybody had some reason who were on the way. And most of them, when they came, they saw the center collapse right in front of their eyes. Not one person of all our life members was hurt. Not one person. I talked to one guy, just to give you an example. He was named Derek, and he's a boy from Taiwan, and he used to help us with transferring money from Taiwan to Ireland. It's a little complicated, but he was Taiwanian. And so then he moved to New York, and we found him there. And then we called him up after the trade center. We called him up and said, "How are you?" He said, "Well, I'm fine." He said, "How did you survive?" He said, "Look, I'm really lucky." He said, "I'm working on 96th floor. And just before, 10 minutes before, my girlfriend called, and I took a lift down there. And the lift reached down, the whole building started shaking. And everyone in my company is dead. Every single one is dead." And I know another case. There was another person, forgot his name. We wanted to see him the next day to buy some flat to preaching flat. And so we tried to make an appointment with him. He said, "No, tomorrow I don't have time. I'm on a golf course." And we knew this boy, I think it was Jayananda Prabhu. He told me, "You don't play golf." He said, "I know that." He said, "I don't play golf, but I have to be on golf plates because all the business in America is done on a golf place." So he went to the golf place on that very day. And he was on 102nd floor or whatever. His whole company was dead. So Krishna can do wonderful things. There's a beautiful song by a German poet, Neumann. And it's turned into music by Johann Sebastian Bach. You heard Johann Sebastian Bach? Famous organist and composer. And he said, "Wer nur den lieben Gott lässt walten," whoever depends on God and hofft auf ihn in aller Zeit, and puts his hope in him alone at all times, den wird wunderbar halten. It will he who will be perfectly maintained in aller Not und Traurigkeit, in all anxiety and sadness. Wer nur den lieben Gott vertraut, who just has faith in God, der hat auf keinen Sand gebaut. He didn't build his house on sand. And so that's the truth of it. That's the only security we have in this life is Krishna. There's no other security. Just like, for example, how are we sure? How do you know you're not being cheated? So it's your own security. If you are honest and straightforward, you won't be cheated. It's not possible. Krishna will take care of it. Krishna is our safety belt. And if he sees that we sincerely try to practice Krishna consciousness, Krishna will not allow that anybody can cringe even a hair. There was a story of one lady, what was it? She was Trappist, a Trappist nun. Trappists, they don't speak. They're silent. So they perform mona. They don't speak in generally, they speak just the necessary, give me the salt, etc. And she was in Hiroshima, in a chapel, and praying, deeply absorbed for 2 hours in Jesus. All of a sudden, the whole thing shook. And he was hurled to the ceiling by the explosion, hurt on the head, and he fell down and was unconscious. After 1 week, she felt somebody was touching her hand like this. She woke up, she saw a man with a gas mask. They pulled her out. Not one hair of her, she was 200 meters away from the center point of the nuclear explosion. Not a hair of her was singed. She survived. Whereas everybody within 5 kilometers was dead. Everybody, So you can see that Krishna, he can just protect you like he protected Maharaj Parikshit from being burned by the Brahmastra. He can protect. And that's the only protection we have. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, there's one of my favorite verses, and that is, let me find it. Give me a moment. Here. Tat eva sharanam gacha sarva bhavena bharata. Tat prasadat pradam gatim shantim stanam prapsyasi shashvatam. O Arjuna, surrender unto him utterly. There it is, utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. There it is, by his grace. By Krishna's grace we can go back to Godhead. We have to do our best, but Krishna will do the rest. That is the idea. Sachidananda Swami used to say that. It's very true. We have to do our best. Krishna will definitely do the best. And we saw so many, even in this ashram where I'm living, Prabhupada ashram. In the beginning we used to invite people to die. And when I was there, and 3-4 people died. Everyone went beautifully. Went beautifully. I mean, I remember this one boy from Italy. He was so sick, and all of a sudden he got up and said, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna." I had these 2 deities, Lord Gauranga, this big. I had to standing in front of him. He went, "Krishna, Krishna." He fell back, unconscious. And he came back after 2 hours and said, "What did you see?" And he was Italian. He said, "Miracoloso, miracle. Miracle." He said, "I saw a miracle." And I said, "Are you going back to God?" And he said, "Yes, I know. I'm going back. Krishna told me." And so then he was originally a disciple of Bhagavan. When Bhagavan left, there was a huge confusion. And so Puri Maharaj, Prabhupada's friend Puri, the young Puri, went to Italy, and he took shelter in him. And I have no problems with that, because in that situation, there was nobody he trusted after he lost his ISKCON guru. And so Puri Maharaj called one evening, right after this incident, and he said, "Namahata," this was his name, "is he there?" I said, "Yes, Maharaj, he's dying." He said, "Where is he? Can he hear me?" He said, "No, he can't." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, it's 50 yards away, the room." He screamed in his top of his lungs, he said, "Namahata, go out of your body!" And there was some noise in that room. I went over, I rushed over. He just had left at that very moment his body. At that very moment he left, And it was beautiful. He was a beautiful soul. He used to distribute 5,000 books, Bhagavatams, every week. There are very few people have done this in ISKCON. He used to drive with his truck and his books into a factory and said, "I want to see the boss." Convince the boss to buy for every member of his factory a Bhagavatam or Bhagavad-Gita. This is how he sold so many books. And Krishna saved him. He went back to Godhead. And there's so many examples. There was one brahmachari in Nizhny Novgorod, and he said to his friend, he said, "I want to make my will. Can you keep it?" He said, "Why you want to make your will?" He said, "Because I'm dying." He said, "How do you know that?" He said, "Gauranga came to me in a dream. He told me, And so he made his will and gave it to his friend. And 1 week later, there was an accident, and he left his body on the spot. And I think Gauranga took him before he even felt the impact. He took him out of his body. It was the body who was injured. The person was already gone. And he went back to Godhead because Gauranga told him, "As you're going to go, I'm going to pick you up." And there are so many examples of devotees that I've seen dying in Krishna consciousness. It's the best deal of all. There isn't anything that can compare with it. And we can thank God on our knees day and night that He has brought us here to Vrindavan that we can hear Bhagavad-Gita class and Bhagavatam class and join the devotees. This is such a great thing, that we made the right decision. I made this decision on the 1st of January 1972. Now that's how many years? 47 years back. And I never regretted it once. It was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I stayed 47 years with Prabhupada. And so, thank you very much. So the same I can tell you. This decision to be in the Hare Krishna movement is the best decision you can make, the best decision in your life. And you have a great chance to go back to Godhead by Prabhupada's grace. And Prabhupada said, even if you can't think of Krishna, then Krishna makes you to, he will think of you. Krishna will think of you. And so, many of our friends in school, where are they all? Some became directors, some became a master of photography, somebody else became a filmer. So many people, so many different professions. Somebody became a carver, he's an art carver, he makes sculptures. But he doesn't have Krishna. How unfortunate. All my friends, they're all deep sunk in material existence. They're all eating meat, almost all, and they're just living a lie, namely that I'm the body. You live a lie. You're not living in truth. In truth you live when you understand that you're not the body, that you're a soul. And as a soul we have a responsibility to make Krishna happy. And when Krishna is happy, we are happy. This is the way to happiness. If you want to be happy, make Krishna happy, you will be happy in due course of time. That's the only way to get satisfaction in life, is actually surrender. And many people, you see, this movement is so auspicious that it has turned many people towards spiritual life. I mean, even, does anybody know Ian Anderson, the flute player from Jethro Tull? You know Jethro Tull? Famous, Yeah, the group, Jethro Tull. And he plays the flute. He has his hair, he looks wild. He plays an excellent flute. It's rock and roll music. And he was asked by the BBC, are you thinking that you're the greatest flute player in the world? He said, no. He said, and who is it? He said, Krishna. He's the master of flute playing. It was wonderful to hear that. He said, it's Krishna. He is the supreme flute player. And so you have many people who have touched, like Yadu and myself, devotee of England. We went to one concert of the Police. Sting was playing. And Yadu knew some people. I stayed outside. But he went and he preached to him between the acts. And so Sting asked him, what is the essence of your philosophy? Give me one sentence. And he said, we are spirits in the material world. And so then months later, we drove over the street. We are spirits in the material world, spirits. He made a song out of it. Never gave us a penny. But we are glad that he puts us in news. We are spirits in the material world. Very well said. We are actually spirits in the material world. And the material world is not our home. Our home is the spiritual world. Just like, for example, the story of Adam and Eve. There is no question that Adam and Eve were historical persons. They're not historical persons. Adam and Eve is you and me. We ate from that forbidden tree. That's why Jesus tells the story. Or is it in the Old Testament, rather? We are the Adam and Eve. We took from the tree of material knowledge and became unchaste and wanted to do our own thing. Like Frank Sinatra, he sings, I do it my way. And he's even proud of it, of his foolishness. It's such a foolish thing to say, I do it my way. Jesus said, your will be done. Your will, dein Wille geschehe, your will be done. That is intelligent. Jesus was intelligent. This guy is stupid. I think I do it my way. You can do it your way thousands of times around the clock, millions of births. You do it your way. As long as you do it your way, there's no hope that you go to the spiritual world. There's no person in the spiritual world who says, well, I want to do it my way. And Krishna says, all right, the whole material world is there. You go down there. Have a good time. Write me a postcard when you're ready. So the idea I do it my way is all pervading. Everybody wants to do it his way. Even personally, I don't want to say much, but personally, I think we have to be as close to Prabhupada's standard as possible. Even the singing, Prabhupada had a particular way of singing, and we should try to do that in that way. Now you hear all kinds of things that Prabhupada would stop. I tell you frankly, he would stop right away and say, "What is that? Who did introduce this?" He would say. I know, because I've been chastised by Prabhupada a couple of times. That who did this? Who introduced this? Why is that? Why did you change it? So it's best to hear Prabhupada and try to understand that nobody knows better to praise Krishna than Prabhupada, because he's an associate of Krishna. Nobody. And so we have to learn from Prabhupada how to sing, how to dance, how to do everything. Really, as Prabhupada, the closer we are to Prabhupada, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. If you lean out, there's trouble. Like we have in Germany on the trains, I used to remember when we could open the train window. I remember when I was a young boy, I used to take a train ride to my aunt, and there was a real steam in front, and the steam would go into my eye with little particles. I leaned out of the window. It was so impressive. Fast, train. Every train in Germany was powered by coal at that time, And how did I get there? What did I say before? Huh? Huh? Louder.
You were taking a train to your aunt, to visit your aunt.
I visited my aunt. Yeah, but why? I forgot.
Saying do as Prabhupada does, like to do how Prabhupada sings.
Huh?
How Prabhupada sings, we should sing like Prabhupada.
Yeah. This must have been. That Prabhupada had a particular way of doing things, a particular things, of saying things, and the closer we are really to Prabhupada, the more safe we are. I remember in Mayapur, Prabhupada was in Mayapur, in his room, Satadanya, at that time he was a Swami, came in and said, "Prabhupada, the Ganga cannot come on our land." And Prabhupada said, "Why?" He said, "Well, Bhaktisiddhanta's road, the road that goes in front of the temple, it leads to the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, etc., all the way to Calcutta." He said, the Bhaktisiddhanta's road blocks it. And then Prabhupada said, "That's the fact." He said, "As long as we stay on Bhaktisiddhanta's road, we are safe. But if we get off this road to the left or the right, we're lost." So Prabhupada was very conservative, He wanted us to be conservative in our outlooks. He didn't like to invent new things. We have to explore the Indian culture. I give you an example. I was, some years ago, I stayed in Chitrakoot, and there was an Ayurvedic retreat, and there's a sort of Ganga going through the town. Ram stayed there in exile for a long time in Chitrakoot. And so I bathed there in the evening at chanted my Gayatri. So on the other side I saw some boys, university students, they were frolicking in the water. And they came swimming over and said, "Swamiji, how is it possible? You're a white boy and you were chanting Gayatri." And I said, "Well, I was initiated by a guru." He said, "What guru?" I said, "Vaishnava guru." He said, "Oh, Vaishnava, my father also is a Vaishnava. Would you like to come with us?" So I came with them. And we were sitting together, and the man asked me, I had a kirtan, they found out I could sing, so I led a kirtan. The man asked me some question. He said, "How old are you?" I said, "Then and then." "When are you born?" I said, "That and that date." He said, "What, that date?" I said, "Such and such date." He said, "Well, that's today, your birthday. It's your birthday today." And immediately the women went into the kitchen and cooked a feast, amazing. Neighbors arrived, the news came out. And a tremendous feast was organized, and they're celebrating my birthday. I mean, where do we have this in the Western countries? Then these kids, one of them, he was a leader, he brought me on their motorbike everywhere, this temple, that temple, that temple, this temple. And it was so nice. Every time I came out of the temple, there was some steps down. Immediately they grabbed my hand, left and right, to make sure that I wouldn't stumble. Because they know how to deal with old people. They know in the West, they let you stumble. They say, oh, bye-bye. I hope he didn't survive. Then we don't have to take care of him. In France, they call it pipiage. Old people are pipiage. Pipi means passing, pas au l'hiver, who doesn't get through the winter. He's a pipiage. Oh, he's a pipiage. He doesn't get through the winter. The Western society is so uncultured in that sense, And so it was very impressive that immediately they grabbed my arm, left and right. I didn't say anything. They immediately took care of me. And so when we left finally, I came to the train station. 30 people had gathered, And I spoke to this boy who initially asked me this question, how come you're chanting Gayatri? He was there, and I said, it's amazing how we can become friends in such a short time. He said, friends? He said, friends we never can become. He said, because friendship you can change friends. Friendship you can give up. You are our grandfather, and you cannot give up the relationship to your grandfather, ever. He said, that's forever, It was so wonderful to hear that, You can't give up your relationship with friends you can change, and it's true. I had many friends in my life, they're not anymore there. But the relationship to the grandfather, grandmother, mother, father, you can't change. They're there forever. And so that's the greatness of Vedic culture, really. They're so cultured. If you meet nice people in Vedic culture, they're so nice, and so pure. I remember I was invited by a Bengali family. I was a young brahmachari, or was it in Delhi maybe? And so I was invited for lunch. And I was a young devotee, maybe 1 year in the movement. So there was one preparation, one savory, cream. It was very nice. And she saw that I ate it, and I looked if there's more. She gave me more. She gave me 3 times. And then she asked me, you like that preparation? He said, I very much so. He said, why do you like it? I said, well, it tastes like goose liver. She went, it tastes like goose liver. She looked at her husband, they were in a state of shock, They've never heard such a thing, that somebody's eating goose liver, I didn't know, I was a young Rakshasa, no idea. That I had to be a little careful with what I say. But how are we raised in Western country, There's no culture, there's no, people, when they're getting old, like right now, for example, I have a pension in Germany. I have a pension and an insurance, and I can, if I die or in the last days, I will go into a hospital and die there with 5 karmis in the same room, and none of them is, everybody will be disturbed when I chant. So I decided to just move to Vrindavan. I rather, 73, you're coming to the end of the gig. That's it. You're in death row. I'm aware of this. So I'd rather be here. Because I know when I die here, people will take care of me. That's what people do here in Vrindavan. They will take care. This is the Indian culture, to take care of old people. In the West, you don't have this culture. This is Rakshasas. I went one time to Nairobi, and so the Pujari came to me, and he said, Swamiji, I have to I committed a sin. I said, what did you do? He said, I ate my grandfather. And I was shocked, and he said, how is that? He said, well, in our tribe, when the grandfather's getting old and diseased, we slide him from the roof. So he breaks his neck, from the roof. And then he's served to everybody. And then he said, and then the power of the grandfather comes over you. He became completely excited. And he said that, And I said, well, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, he's saving the Rakshasas. And he said, but he was very tasty. He said he was very tasty. And it's a fact that human flesh is tasty. Tigers know this. If a tiger ever eats a human being, he will come again and again and again. He has to be murdered. Village will get together and murder him. He must be murdered. Because once they have licked human blood, that's a better taste than any other flesh they can get. So it was amazing that here was a person that was not only a meat eater, he was raised like a Rakshasa, but he became a devotee and even became the pujari in the temple. You know, it's such a wonderful story, how Prabhupada is saving everybody, how he was compassionate. You know, let me tell you one thing. Like, for example, the Christians, they say, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. True. That's true. It's the most intelligent question that was asked by this man. He asked, Master, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? Very good question. You know, that's a good question. It's the best question you can ask, most intelligent. Master, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? Jesus' answer was, love your Lord with all the heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Right? And that's also true, because Shuta Goswami was asked exactly the same questions by the sages of Naimisharanya. What is the highest goal? He said, Savai Pungsam Parodharmo, the highest, the Parodharmo. Yato Bhakti Radhoksaji is to love God. So there is only, in the essence, there is only one religion, and that is to love God. That is Sanatana Dharma. Church is not Sanatana Dharma, but to love God, that's Sanatana Dharma. That's the eternal religion of man. But then Jesus said another thing. He said, but the second law is equal to him. You should love your neighbor as yourself. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself? If you really love your neighbor, you give him Krishna consciousness. That's love. If you just nurse his body, you know, he is suffering because of karma. So you cannot save him from karma by just nursing him. Prabhupada said nursing people is actually like saving the suit of a drowning man. Now, therefore Jesus said to people, go out in all worlds and convert all peoples and baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Spirit. And he says, from now on you should fish men. He didn't sell them open hospitals. He said you should fish men. That's the most important thing. Now, some of our doctors in Bombay, they opened a hospital. But what do you expect these people to do? They're professional people. Instead of working in a Karmi hospital, they created a Krishna hospital, and everybody in there hears Prabhupada, etc. So that type of welfare work is transcendental. But the other welfare works, that a rich man just builds a hospital, what is the use of that? You know, it's useful, it's pious activity, it's punya, but it's not transcendental. If you really want to help somebody, you have to free him from suffering altogether. And that is Harinam, Harinam, Harinam Eva Kevalam, to teach him Hare Krishna mantra. That's the highest welfare work. Therefore Krishna says, what is this? Yam paramam guyam bhaktesha bhadasyati. This verse, yamidam paramam guyam bhaktesha bhadasyati. Forgot it. Said, one who preaches this gospel is most dear to me. No one is more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So preach, if you say preach love your neighbor as yourself, if you love yourself, if you really have love for yourself, and become a devotee, that's the greatest service you can do to your higher self. And if you love others, the same. That's why it says SOS means save our souls. It doesn't say SOB, save our bodies. It says save our soul, because saving the soul of another person is the most wonderful thing you can do. In my life also, I've convinced hundreds of people to come to Krishna consciousness. Hundreds and hundreds. You know, this is an activity which is so precious and so dear to Krishna. If you preach Krishna consciousness, if you bring people to Krishna consciousness, that's the supreme activity. Like Prabhupada, he just preached, and he created so many devotees. You know, what a piety he had. You know, so many. And he never told us to open a hospital. Of course, if you're professional doctors, what's the harm? We want to rather live in a Krishna conscious hospital than a Karmi hospital. You know, and so all the people there, they hear the bhajan, and they're getting prasadam, and so it's a nice hospital. It's a Krishna conscious hospital. And but mundane welfare work is useless, you know, because you cannot save a man from suffering. You can't. Just like, I don't know if you see the news or hear the news. Just a week ago, one little child fell in a well in Spain, 100 meters deep, in a shaft that was this big. And they digged him out. You know, they had to build another shaft, and finally they pulled out the body. Body was dead, of course. But I mean, why does God allow this? Why? There's no answer in Christianity, because there's no previous life. The idea of a previous life has been condemned by the Church in the year 530 AD on the Council of Constantinople. And whoever believes in a pre-existence of the soul, he's damned, he's doomed. So if you don't believe in a previous life, you cannot understand why my brother died of cancer. A horrible death with 7 years. And I asked the priest this question, the Catholic priest, said, why? Why does he have to suffer like this? His skull was opened 2-3 times. Why he had to die like this? Where was God? I asked the priest. And he said, I don't know. He said, he has done not anything. He said, but it says in the Bible, I was 12 years old or 10 years old, I said, it says in the Bible, as you sow, you shall reap. What has he sown? He was just a child. He said, I really can't answer this question. And I became an atheist at that moment. I didn't say it, but I thought, now this man has turned you into an atheist. There's no God. Everything is just accidental. Somebody's suffering, somebody's enjoying, somebody is everything, somebody is nothing. That was my conclusion. It took me a long time, and from there, after another 15 years at least, no, maximum, enjoyed was 25. So at least 15 years, maybe 14 years or 13 years, it took me to come to the conclusion that there is a God and there is justice. That this little boy that fell into the well, if you would understand his previous life, you could immediately understand why. You could immediately understand why. There's a reason for it. Then my brother died of cancer. There's a reason for it. And if you were able to cross that threshold of his birth and death, you would understand it. You would understand it why. So that's the secret, that God doesn't reveal it to us. Because if he would reveal our previous life, we would be so living in the past. Already we are caught in the past of this life. You know, there would be even more to think about instead of thinking of Krishna. You know, so I must stop now at 6 o'clock. I thank you very much for coming. Once in a week I give lecture here. You're welcome. It's going to be entertaining, like today. And I wish you all the best in your Krishna consciousness. Pray for this poor soul, Prithu Das, and all the best. Hare Krishna.